The Express.
Welcome to the Express podcast. We're so excited for today's guest. His name is Mark Kovacs and is my personal trainer. He's experienced many different things from working at Gatorade to training elite level athletes across multiple sports. On this episode, we discuss mainly on my off-season training regimen, how we've evolved as a team, and how he's made me a better athlete. We hope you enjoy. Welcome back to the Express podcast. We are fortunate to have my trainer, Mr. Mark Kovacs, on with us today. Just to give a little background on Mark, he's got a lot of accolades here, so I need to have my iPad out to read them.
Be half the podcast episode here.
Played tennis at Auburn, correct? Mm-hmm. Coming from Australia. I don't know if y'all knew this. Your last year at Auburn, All-American.
Yep.
NCAA doubles champ.
Correct.
And were you player of the year as well? NCAA doubles player of the year.
All right.
Light.
Then you got your PhD from Alabama,
which is crazy.
Yeah,
we'll talk about it. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
But you have been involved with Metis Performance as president and CEO. You worked at USTA, which is the United States Tennis Association. You're the co-founder of ITPA, which is the International Tennis Performance Association. You were a director of sports science at Gatorade. You taught at Life University, and you now run Kovacs Institute. So, with all that being said,
welcome
Mark. Yeah,
welcome.
Thank you all.
Welcome.
Excited to be here with you guys.
I guess along this episode, we're just going to focus on kind of our journey together, how we met, why we do the things that we do, things that we put emphasis on to be able to obviously make me the best athlete that I can be, things that we've seen with me and just trends that we've tried to stay on top of or to manage, how we communicate throughout the year, just kind of all things on my performance and what makes me go and tick. So just for starters, do you remember how we met?
Yeah, no, it's a great story, actually. I was working with a girl who was involved in the U.S. women's national team, Jane Campbell, and how I met her was a crazy story as well. But we were working out, helping her, get ready for the season, and then Mel was in town visiting Dansby. I didn't know Dansby or Mel at that time, and Jane brought her in for a workout because we had a facility. So they came in for a workout. She started working out for a little bit, and then Dansby walks in one day and wanted to just talk, just chat. And so we started chatting, and he can probably tell the story from his perspective, but it was a strange way that we connected, and he took the initiative because I actually didn't really know who he was.
Yeah. Jane, basically Mal and Jane are really good friends. We were needing a place to train because this was kind of starting to transition back from Nashville. I was spending most of my off seasons in Nashville up at Vanderbilt, and then we started changing to be in Atlanta more often. And so Jane, Mal are working out together. Mal comes home, starts telling me about Mark and just the things that they were doing and how she felt that could be a really good connection for me just because of the things that he's done, how he was approaching the workout, some of the technology that he was using for Jane would kind of make sense for me as well. So came in one day, got Mark connected with a guy named Chris Ham that was our strength and conditioning guy at Vanderbilt. Now he holds a higher position with just overall athletic performance. But they got connected, and we started talking through my off-season workouts, and then slowly started implementing some things that he had seen with me, and we just got connected, hit it off, started to really see things through the same lens, and have been able to evolve our program and game together.
How many years ago was that?
2019 or going? 18. It was off season of
18.
Yeah, 2018. Because I still had my
he had the hand issue going on.
Cast.
And I was lucky because Dansby came in with a pretty good training base. Chris Ham did a phenomenal job. His programming was great. So the first year was really just implementing what he was already doing. and sort of, tweaking a few things on the edges. So that made it pretty easy. And the nice part about Dansby, and I think why we've been together for so long, is he does what he says. It makes it easy for me. We communicate really well, and it's adapted a lot over his multiple years, because every year you need something different. The body's different, the mind's different, the teams are different now, so everything's changed, and you got to adapt to the environment.
I think the biggest thing that jumped off the page for me early when we started working together was we were talking about swing stuff. I was kind of in this rut of knowing I needed to change my swing, how I was doing things. And Mark was basically saying, he was like, come over to my house and show me some video, send me some clips. We'll talk through them, because he understands how the body's supposed to move. And so I go over there, and he was asking what I was wanting. What did I like about this certain swing? What did I not like about this one? And he started running me through like some mobility tests and some things to say, well, you're beating yourself up over not being able to do this skill. Well, you don't have the physical capability to do the skill, in the sense of your body, your hip, your T-spine can't move. So you're getting mad about the result, when in reality, you need to get essentially mad about not being able to move fluid enough to be able to create that result. Because early in the year, things work good. The body's lubed up and everything's mobile. But as the year goes along, you kind of get beat up along the way. And so understanding how to, not necessarily take care of my body better, but understanding what things actually work for me, and putting emphasis on making sure my body can move. That way the skill can show up when it needs to show up. And that was like the first time I'd ever really heard how to, that's kind of the lens I need to start looking at it through. And it really made a big difference for me.
Yeah, I was kind of curious. So before, what all sports do you mainly work in? And within those sports, how much of a difference is it when you would train maybe, let's say, a Mallory versus a Dansby? Obviously the sports are different, but yet similar movements. So I don't know and obviously it's player to player, but
no, I mean, it's a great question. And I think I look at the athlete through a lens of two aspects. One, it's their body. What can they do and what can't they do currently, and what do we need to work on related to what their skills are in their sport. So for a hitter, for example, they've got a lot of rotation and a lot of lower body stability. Whereas for Mel, she's got a completely different skill set that she's trying to work through. She needs to be able to run and cut, and decelerate in these movement patterns that she needs. So the programs are completely different. There's some obviously needs of general strength and general mobility that pretty much every athlete needs that moves. But in general, the programs are pretty diverse. And most of my experience has been tennis players, baseball, soccer, and golf. They're the four that I spend the most time with. In the early days, I did a lot of different sports. I did NFL combine prep when I was younger. So did
work for the Cavs.
Did a few years in the NBA with the Cavs as well. I know we got Atlanta people here, so I gotta keep that quiet. But so from an NBA perspective and some tall guys, I've been fortunate. I worked with a lot of 7-footers as well. And that's a whole different world, because then it's a lot with the feet and the knees and the lower back, and you're trying to protect their asset because they are so big. So working with Dansby is awesome. He's well put together. He's disciplined with his daily work, which shows up, and it also makes it easy for me because we keep our programming really simple. We were talking about that today, that our programming is about as simple as you can get. It's doing the basics every day and being consistent. And I think that's where Dansby does it better than just about anyone I've worked with. It's just doing the right stuff consistently.
Yeah, I think the biggest and easiest way that I look at it is, since we kind of made this shift to having Mark run my programs, having some collaboration on thought process and evolution, because early in my career, I struggled with just some weird freakish injuries, and not that I'm gonna say that what I was doing training wise was causing that to happen, because I think that is a little silly. I thought there was a little something to it of maybe I'm loading too much. I'm doing potentially not too much in the off season, but some complex things that are opening the avenue for my body to have these freakish like injuries. And ever since we started working together and really simplifying program, really understanding how to move properly, I played all 72 games in the COVID year, because that was really the first year we had done stuff. All 72 games, I played 160 out of 161 in 2021, played all 162 in 2022, and then minus the heel injury I had last year, which kind of a freakish thing, played 145 or whatever it ended up being. So I give a lot of credit to him in that regard, because he's gotten my body prepared for that. And then, we've even made adjustments coming into this, 2024 season, just based on the pitch clock, the changes, the day game factor. We've done some different things around trying to prepare my body and mind for the year. But I do love how simple we keep everything. It just makes a lot of sense to me.
Right.
Do simple things best, and you get good results. And every so often we'll keep it fun and creative. But he knows that my weight room activity is to make me a better baseball player. Like, I don't want to be the best exerciser. I want to be the best baseball player. And Mark's really good at keeping that in perspective.
The coolest thing for me is just kind of what he said about playing as many games as he's played. Aren't many guys in the majors that play 162 games. So as a coach and someone as part of his team, that's one of the coolest stats for me, because there's always a little bit of luck involved in that, obviously, but he's done the work, and doing that for the way you've done it is awesome to see it. But again, he's doing the work. I mean, there are people ask all the time, how do the best athletes stay healthier? I said it's the daily work that no one sees. I mean, if you look across all sports, the guys that are the healthiest and have the longest careers, they're doing stuff that most people aren't doing on a regular basis.
Yeah. A good question, I would say, for the people listening is, how does his training throughout the year progress? Because the season is so long and there's so many phases of the season. Obviously, you have the summer grind, which also you probably lose most of your weight in the summer, I would assume. And then you have what turns into kind of the end of the season, but then yet postseason. So it's kind of interesting, because obviously you want your body to be not the best, but the best that it can be come postseason, so you can perform at the level. So how does his training sort of vary between the phases of the season?
Yeah, so I mean, his programming season is pretty simple. We sort of map out the weeks based on the games and the travel schedule, and he has a certain sort of standard workout that he'll do. There's like 3 workouts a week, and he'll rotate through those based on where it is in the schedule. And it makes it easy for him, because he sort of knows the heavier day, the lighter day, is it a day after travel, things like that. So the schedule gets mapped out, and he's done it now enough years. He's, he's a veteran now,
Yeah,
so he sort of knows sort of what works and what doesn't. And sometimes you adapt, let's say, you have a bad night's sleep or something, or, a game goes into extra innings and things change the schedule. You flip that day to the next day, and you just move it down the road. So the scheduling plays a big role in how that happens. And then we talk a lot, especially in those periods where he has a lot of games back to back. He doesn't get enough off days, or towards if it's moving towards the end of the season, is there things that need to be ramped up a bit? Sometimes the conditioning actually dips a bit because you're just playing so many games. Sometimes it's your strength levels. So trying to get as much data as we can, and he's really good, because a lot of it's communication. And he knows, and he gets a sense of where things are. So that's the lucky part for me. I ask him more questions than he asks me, and then we try to adapt from there.
The schedule part is challenging, because there's weather, right?
Yeah,
there's
there's
travel,
so many things.
There's so many different variables. Hey, today, I thankfully, had 4 hits, stole a couple different I worked a lot in game.
Tired.
Maybe I go, instead of I was going to do maybe a little bit of a heavier trap bar type workout, it's maybe some more mobility and some more body weight type of stuff, just hitting all the different planes and movements. But there's so many different factors that go into it, and I think experience is a big part of that, and just I love how we have like a standard 3 workouts that we do and rotate through, and understanding that I need to hit each one, but there are different points and times when I can utilize them, and they're all interchangeable, which is also the great part. It kind of gives, my analogy is he gives me the piece of paper with a shape on it, and then I can color the shape. He's not saying I have to color it a certain color. Like, he kind of gives me the freedom within a structure, which helps me perform best, because there are certain days too, I've learned as the season goes along, the trap bar deadlift pretty much hits every component of your body. And there's some days where it's a getaway day because Chicago is different with our day game schedule. I'll work out on getaway day and I'll go in there and legitimately do 4 sets of just trap bar and be done. That's it. And, there's certain days where you go through a complete full body. But him being able to kind of somewhat map out and send the different workouts, and for me to know what to do makes it really easy, for me to stay on top of my stuff. So
how has it changed with so many day games?
So the biggest thing that I learned this past year was I started feeling like I was crazy for wanting to lift on getaway days. And then I started talking to Nico and Ian about it, and they're like, there's no other way to do it, because typically what I do is every second game of a series. So, we play, let's say Monday, Tuesday, we have a 4 game against the Cincinnati Reds, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That Tuesday is when I aim to get a workout, because Sunday, most likely you had traveled back in, Monday you play, and then Tuesday is typically, the second day is typically the best day to get a workout in. So the next time usually it'd be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it'd be that Saturday that I would try and get a second workout in. But because we play Friday, Saturday, Sunday as day games, it's hard to work out after a day game to then turn around right into another day game. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, the recovery time's not great. So typically what you do is you just work out after the game on Sunday before you go get on the bus to then, go to the airport to travel. So that's been really the biggest adjustment for me, is the whole day game schedule and trying to navigate through still getting my workouts in.
Well, that'd probably be best too, because then I'm assuming that Monday, after I could get away on a Sunday, you'd have a night game.
Correct.
So in theory, you should. But then, see, that's another weird part, because now you're factoring in travel, you're factoring in bus, plane, whatever. Get in the hotel. I mean, sleeping in a different environment. Like, it's just kind of.
And that's where I typically, like I said, I'll typically like really, really dull it down just in terms of the volume. It'll be more of just like, here's the trap bar, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to lift the trap bar, maybe 4 different times. If I'm feeling like it, that'll be my only lower half. And then I'll move into some type of a push pull, and I'll be in the weight room for, maybe 12 minutes. People think I'm crazy. Like, I'm in there for 12 minutes. Like, it's like,
our warm up.
Get in there, get it done. Yeah,
I'm still waking up.
because you kind of have to, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm putting pennies in the piggy bank. I'm not trying to.
Right.
I've done all my work now for the season so that I'm not trying to gain
maintain
weight I'm just trying to maintain the movements and stay strong as long as I can throughout a year. And then we go into off season and reassess.
That's very interesting. I just, like you were talking, there's a difference in that in comparison to like an NFL athlete and how they maintain strength. And I just feel like there's so many ideas around strength training and stuff like that. Like, you hear high school coaches, it's a hot topic of, do you lift on game day or do you not?
No, it's a discussion that's gone on for a long time.
Yeah.
There's definitely the right ways to lift on game day. Like in the NBA, we lifted every game day. It wasn't a discussion. It wasn't even a thought. It's a different type of lift, though.
Mm-hmm.
You're not getting close to max. You're not doing tons of volume. You're hitting kind of what Dan's were describing. You're getting in, getting out, 20-minute workouts, 30-minute workouts max, because you're trying to maintain and you're trying to keep it so that when you do get a day or two lighter, that you can go a bit heavier, they're not going to get sore that day. That's the biggest issue when you've got a season, is if you do want to lift a bit heavier or a higher volume day, you just can't do one out of nowhere, because then they can't move for 3 days afterwards, and then everyone's upset. The athlete's upset, coaches are upset, everyone's pissed off. So that's the thing you have to avoid, is making sure that the athlete doesn't have a negative response to what looks like a good workout on paper, but it was a bad workout at that time.
Right.
And that's the most important part.
Well, that's what I like. The one thing that he does such a good job of keeping in perspective is like, my skill, sport, and the game still is the most important thing in the day. Now, we're still wanting to do stuff that we can perform better in those games. But if, like he was saying, if on paper it looks good, but in essence it's going to take away from my performance or make me sore. Because the last thing any athlete wants is to be legitimately like workout sore for a game. I mean, there's honestly no worse feeling.
Right.
So keeping that in perspective, I think is huge.
Yeah, and one of the old, or I guess the last coach I coached for, his thing was he called it Feel Good Friday. So before the game, we were lifting no matter what, but how we were lifting was not anything strenuous. It was more of enough to like get a small pump, if you will, to kind of make them. The idea is you look good, feel good, play good in your jersey.
Well, people say like, do you work out on game days or whatever? I'm like, yeah, because we play every day.
I was going to say 9 months that you don't work out for 9 months.
Yeah. Like every freaking day is when we play.
Yeah.
So we have to.
And it's just a mindset too. I feel like once you're just being consistent at what you're doing is going to allow that end result that you're searching for, which, like you and I were talking before, it does not matter. Like if you're not consistent on your workouts, it doesn't matter if you're a professional athlete or just an average Joe going to the gym, you're not going to see results, right? And the reason I would argue that people get so sore is because they're not consistent.
Correct.
So you're not consistent, and then all of a sudden you jump into the gym and you do even what you're supposed to be doing at a lower weight, and then you wake up the next day and you're like, oh my gosh.
You take 3 more days off.
Yeah, and that's what we used to tell our athletes, like, you're not supposed to be, like, our goal is not to make you sore. That's not it. We're building muscle to maintain and grow, and if you are sore, then there's something's not adding up. Now, obviously, if you're just jumping into a program or whatever, then yes, your muscles are not used to that shock, but the idea that a good workout is defined by soreness is not a intelligent mentality.
How long after the season until you start ramping up off-season stuff? Like, what do you usually take off?
Typically, we take, I would say, like a strong 2 weeks of doing nothing. And then
I like how we emphasize strong.
Strong. It's going to be
2
all of
weeks
2
of doing
weeks.
nothing,
We're talking 14 days.
Yeah.
Every
It's
hour and
definitely-
minute.
And I usually am a mess too, because I don't know what to do. But my body, as much as I need to still do things, and my body's kind of craving it, like I break it down so much for 9.5 months that I need a 2-week window to kind of let it heal itself, and then we start getting back into things. And it's nothing crazy or like official, but get on the Peloton, move around with some body weight stuff.
I just ask him
lunge
to sweat.
patterns.
I don't really care at that point. It's just sweat a little bit, get the heart rate up a little bit, but do it in whatever's comfortable.
Get the beach bod right.
exactly.
Get
The off-season.
get
Mexico
curls,
body.
baby.
some of this, some push, all
The
that.
only time of the year he bench presses.
But what I think I've been impressed with too is just our ability to collaborate on changes like this off season, and especially this off season, because I hate conditioning, as do majority of people /
Oh yeah, brother. Look at me.
baseball players. It's not really our thing. We did make it an emphasis this off season to run more, to do more versatile climber, to do more types of cardio activities. Do you want to touch on that?
No, for sure. I mean, the game's changed. So we've talked about it for the last 2 years a little bit. I mean, even from day one, we talked about it wasn't a strength of Dansby's or an enjoyment. It's not that he's not good at it. It's just not something he enjoys. And I understand it as a tennis player. Tennis players are better, conditioned in general than baseball players. But most good tennis players don't love long distance running, that type of stuff. So they gravitate to intermittent sprints and all that. Baseball players are even more on that side. That's what gets them to be great baseball players, is most of them. So we were talking about, the game's getting faster. You're getting less recovery time between pitches, between innings, or everything like that. if you can get your cardio a little bit better, it's going to make you do your other stuff a little bit easier. And there was a bit of resistance, through the discussion, which is normal.
Well, it was an open
Yeah,
discussion.
it was a good discussion. But I mean,
They're like, send someone be like,
Dan's just like, I'm
wait,
not
you want
doing
me?
that.
Am I choosing one A or B, or is that?
Yeah,
This
I
is
got
what
it.
I just want to be clear.
Yeah.
We're
Is
doing
that
both
all
of these.
today?
yeah. So
what
from
Mark
that,
goes, I am
and that
coloring
happened
that
quite a
shit.
few times. He's like, yeah, it was like 6 or 7 different things, and he's like, do I pick 3? I mean, that came back a few times because he thought it was too much. But he actually embraced it really well, and he actually started, I think, asking for it.
He's getting old.
Yeah.
He's a veteran.
But yeah, I mean, the conditioning this year, I really, for the first time probably in my career, just embraced it. And we started it earlier, did some, circuit stuff around it, whether it was some intermittent sprint stuff with maybe that's when I'm doing my shoulder care for the day, is along with the cardio, whether it's some band work, some stability, some core stability, just different things, whether it's even wrist strengthening, doing that with some of the cardio, like kind of giving me some things that I kind of enjoy to pair with what I don't. Then honestly, there's some days, and I really do think there's some value to it, is some days just suck. I was talking to some high school kids the other day. I'm like, you guys act like every single day. Like, I love baseball. I'd love the prep for it. But there are some days that just suck, and it's a grind. There's no other way to really phrase it, and you just embrace it. And I think in the off season, some of the stuff we've done is almost helped that mentality. Like, there are certain days, like he was alluding to, when he sends me a intermittent sprint kind of circuit on the treadmill paired with a Versa climber, and I'm like, whoa, no, I'm doing one or the other, right? And it's like, no, you're doing both, but you just kind of embrace it. It sucks, but you get done with it. You're better for it.
Yeah.
Physically, but also
Mentally.
And I think that's something that he's done a lot.
And it was helpful for me to know Dansby for a few years before adjusting this, because I knew what he liked, what he didn't. And it was like, let's find the stuff that can work within his environment. And then there's a whole field of research called adversity mimetics. You can look it up. It's basically doing hard stuff, even if you don't want to, and how you adapt, and your mind adapts and your body adapts. So you don't want to do too much of that, because then you probably will break down. But having it interspersed, once a week, do something that's really something you don't want to do. That provides a lot of value above and beyond the physical aspects of it.
It's kind of like the cold plunge, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say that's leg day for me.
That is funny.
No, I mean, but I think that's part of making a well-rounded athlete, and what he's done so well for me is in such subtle ways, because we obviously all know Mark, and nicest guy and best guy in the world, but the subtle jabs and things that he does to challenge me, to kind of say you're better than that, or you can what do you mean you can't do that?
Yeah, it's
and
a good coach.
It takes my competitive spirit and fire, and just makes me want to up my level. He's not a big rah person, and I appreciate that. And I also just love the trust that we have with one another, because obviously he's got a lot of other things going on, and people he works with, and companies that he does things for. So when he's not around, I can still get the same level of work in by myself, and be able to challenge myself when no one's watching.
Right. And I think the big part is the trust component, yes, but you also know you're not doing something, you're never going to do something that's not geared towards getting you towards the end goal. Like, we were just talking conditioning, and we were talking during the workout, this idea of running for punishment, which, if you talk about psychology, mental warfare, the reason you view, the reason we all view
punishment, running is punishment for,
because that's what it was,
for poor play.
Yeah, for poor play.
Which
but
is,
and you were punished. How many times as a kid did you're at practice and we're fumbling ground balls, and a coach says, "All right, next person to fumble a ground ball, you're going to touch fence."
Holes.
Yeah, or on the line, we're running bow and arrows. It is what it is. And so in our brain, we've been conditioned to think conditioning equals bad. When, we talked with Brum, we're not doing conditioning as like you're not making him condition because he's like, all right, I'm sick of him. We're gonna get after him today.
Yeah.
We're doing
Yeah,
it
he pisses me
because
off
we
today.
need to do it to get to where we want to be. It's not a punishment. It's we have to do this to get to.
And it's a huge training component.
Yeah.
Just like hitting baseballs, just like lifting weights, conditioning is a huge part of the game, and it's getting more important because of how the game's adapting, trying to speed it up. You have to be able to recover between plays, and faster. And some guys, I think, are probably getting challenged with that. You're probably hearing more about it. Certain guys are feeling the difference in how the game's changing.
Absolutely. I mean, I was one of those guys early. It took me a while, and even towards the end of the year, things just got faster because not only was the pace of play faster, but there is something to be said about being able to reset, after you foul a pitch off, this, that, and the other. What happens fast now.
Mhm.
So part of, I even told Mal this year, I was like, I can't believe I'm saying this because we know how much I hate it, but I need to get in better shape. Like, I need to condition this all.
I was going to ask how much Mal played a role into this conditioning.
She's like, oh yeah, that'd be great for you. I've been telling you
Yeah.
that. I'm like, I know.
Coming
you
from
have.
a soccer player who's
I
like
know
the
you
best
have, yeah.
conditioned athlete
She's like,
ever.
what'd you do today? And I always sound like, I do not want to tell you what
Yeah.
I did today. For
I
my conditioning,
lifted
but
the
that's
hex
your
bar
warm-up.
6
Yeah.
times.
He's like, I ran a couple 60-yarders.
But no, I mean, it really is. I wouldn't have thought this 3 years ago necessarily that I needed to legitimately like run and do things to get in better shape for the game of baseball. It was usually more along the lines of I didn't want to do it, so I should probably do it just for more the mental component. But I really do think it's going to be a beneficial for me this season.
Well, the game's changing. Like you talk about working with golfers, the golfing game changed. Probably early 2000s as far as weightlifting. Would you
Yeah,
say?
I mean, Tiger changed.
Tiger changed
David
that.
Duval and Tiger Woods were the two that really prioritized getting in great shape. And now everyone is just standard
Mhm.
because the data shows it as well. They hit
Yeah.
it further. They're able to, shorten the courses for them. So there's definitely a huge push, and everyone's seen it now. It's commonplace. It's normal. It's probably where baseball was 30 years ago.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. If you watch Full Swing documentary, those guys play
Get
18,
after it,
which
yeah.
I call us cart warriors, but if you walk 18,
It's different.
it is way different
Way
in
different.
how your body feels and fuel, and then they're going in their complete gear to the gym and lifting how you would lift. And Rory's like, oh, getting it in today. He's
Yeah.
like, I got to. Like, even though I just shot 4 over and I'm pissed, I have to
Mhm.
get it in today because I'm preparing for tomorrow or whatever. Which is just so interesting when we talk about like heart rate and variability and all of that. Like seeing like the whoop athletes like Rory and JT and all them, like they'll have like Rory's like whoop stats like as he's going throughout the day and like the spikes and the lows, and then his ability to manage his heart rate being up because of physical exertion, walking up the hill, whatever. And then you have a
And
big
the
time
big
shot,
moment.
anxiety,
And the big
and then
moment.
you see his heart rate just drop. And it's like he's locked in. And that is a huge like reset. Or people quick pitching you.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't get comfortable. You're feeling some sort of anxiety. Maybe you're kind of tired. You fouled off one. You ran down to first. Like,
Well, I think that especially because with nobody on, it's a 15-second clock.
mm-hmm.
You foul it off. Sometimes you foul one off and you kind of like, are falling
You gotta,
around a little bit.
regain your balance.
I'm telling you, I give the umpire a hard time all the time because I'm like, you and the catcher, y'all are trying to do world's quickest relay back here because it's like foul ball poof, in the glove as soon as the pitcher gets the ball.
Dansby's chasing his helmet.
Yeah.
Umpire,
As soon-
you
as
foul
soon
one
as
off.
the-
Umpires already
no,
got
for
one
real.
loaded.
As soon as
going to
the
catcher, or going pitcher,
when the pitcher
yeah.
catches it, I mean the clock's counting down. I got to be back in the box right then after being physically like readjusted to
mentally. Mm-hmm.
to flush it, and then also kind of
Set up your
of
game
what
plan.
for what I'm about to do. It's quick, man.
And
I'm telling you, like
dang.
early on, I remember the catcher, we'd just look at each other cracking up because I'm like, man, I ain't in shape for this. Like, I'm tired trying to hit a baseball. Like,
Well,
I've never seen this.
And I wish we would have talked to Max about that because that's a whole nother strategic component to the game now.
Mhm.
Because you foul one off, like me knowing that you're tired and going through all of that. Oh, I want that next pitch to come now. Like
And
I
then-
want it to be.
And I was going to say the mental part, especially on defense. Like I like to think with the pitcher, think with what we're trying to do, so I can
Situational.
Situational, all these things. Usually there used to be a pitch you kind of like readjust and then be back in the play. You could go off on, but it was more like off on, off on. Now it's kind of off on, off on, off on. So it's just it's so much more of a challenge, I would say, mentally and physically than it has been before. And I think that that's something that, we really address this offseason is how can we evolve? We've been good, for the last 3 years, but how can we evolve to be better
With the game.
this next season? Yeah.
And the game changes. I mean, the greats always adapt, and you have to if you want to be the best at it because the rules are changing, the environments are changing. So, managing stress really is what we're talking about. How do you go from, that elevated heart rate to dropping that heart rate in 15 seconds? And in most sports, that's the skill that the best have better than anyone. They're able to adapt quicker from a high or a low and get back to neutral as quick as possible.
One of the last things I'll say too, just about our work is the best people that I've worked with come from Mark too. That's part of his gig that I think he does so well is certain things that are not his specialty. He puts me in touch with. So the nutritionist I used, different PTs that Mal and I have used. Mal and I kind of use the same people. She works out with him. We do nutrition with the same person, PT with the same person. A lot of that stems from kind of his tree, if you will. And so that's been a huge help as well because performance is more than just the weight room stuff, more than the conditioning. It's a lot of the nutrition, the maintenance, the massages, all those kinds of things. And he's done a really good job of helping us form connections and being able to trust his opinion and who he's putting us with has really made a difference. I know when we started working with Aura, the nutritionist, that was in 2022. The healthiest I've been, the most I've kept weight on, all these different things we were able to accomplish and evolve that as well throughout the years. So, I give a lot of kudos to him in that regard of just putting us in touch with the people that we need to be as successful as we can get because we only have a short window realistically in our lives to, leverage these kinds of moments. And he's done such a good job of making sure that we're prepared for those things.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing in my entire career working with athletes, we've always had a performance team around them, whether it's in a team sport or whether it's an individual athlete. These athletes are exceptional for a number of reasons, but there's a lot of things they need on a regular basis and in different cities as well. So a lot of the time it's, who do we connect with there or there? Unfortunately, I've been in enough environments where you've got a pretty good Rolodex of folks that you can call and text and say, hey, I need someone in Minnesota or I need someone in wherever, in LA. And we've got a network of quality people and everyone sort of trusts each other that, you're working in that small world of professional elite athletes. You know what they need. They need privacy. They need quality. They need to make sure that it's done the right way. And that's important. There's no other way to do it.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts you want to touch on?
I have a question. What is your favorite sport to train?
Me?
Do you have one? Yeah.
That's two different. What are the favorite athletes in which sport to work with? I would say the women's soccer players by far because they can do everything. You can run them and they love it, and you can lift them heavy and they love it.
Yeah, they're mentally.
Yeah. No, they're for real. They're like
they're savage.
They're built different in some of those ways.
Literally.
Like, and they embrace the suck better than.
It's like a cross country runner.
They embrace the suck.
Except
better
they don't
than,
love lifting most of the time.
They don't. They don't love lifting, but Mal is like fully kind of seen the benefits of it, but they embrace it. Like that's the thing. I'll be honest. I'll complain with the best of them when it comes to doing stuff I don't want to do. Gotten a little bit better at it this year, but like they just okay, fine. Like they just embrace it. They really do embrace the suck.
And then the tennis players are tough as well. They're tough as nails. People don't understand at the highest levels the amount of workload they do.
Oh my
Soccer
gosh.
players and tennis players, to me, have about the most workload on a weekly basis because of their environments and what they need to do to train.
Yeah, we
Even though I love the baseball guys,
Yeah.
but they're a little easier for me to train because you know exactly what you're focused on. You don't have a lot of need to adjust because you know the position, you know approximately, how many at bats you get, you know approximately how many throws you're going to have within a small narrow window, so you know what you're training for.
Right.
Yeah.
In these other sports, you don't. There's a lot of
Lot just
Could
reactivity.
be 2 sets,
variables.
3 sets,
Yeah.
5 sets. Could be.
you tennis guys,
Adaptability.
And
we
tennis,
learned.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Oh, dude.
Tennis schedules.
We
11
learned
months out
very
of the
quickly.
year.
We just picked up pickleball. And we were playing singles. We were playing doubles a lot, and then we started playing singles. It's like just us competing, and we're like,
That's half the size court.
and then we played like 4 or 5 points, and we're sucking wind, and we're like, can you imagine?
I'm also a
being
washed 30-year-old now.
Yeah,
So.
but they're 30-year-old tennis players who get out there. Like Serena was playing pregnant, and you know what I mean? Like,
I know.
and just how in shape they have to be. We're playing on a small little baby court. I mean, anybody who wants a problem can come see us.
Yeah,
but
I mean, we
regardless.
sometimes Lewis Park open.
Yeah, but no, that's all I got.
No, I mean that's just kind of. I'm really glad that he was able to come on, just to kind of give some insight of what we do, why we do what we do, how it's helped me in my performance, and he's been a big part of obviously my success and keeping me on the field and keep me on the field healthy. As we always say, the best abilities, availability.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And, a lot of credit goes to him for that. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you guys for having me, and it's been a privilege. Working with Dansby. He's such a good, solid person. Does what he says he's going to do. Makes my life easy. We both have kind of crazy schedules, so it works for us. And I'm excited to see what this year brings as well.